Welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we're serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. Welcome to episode 96, and tonight Doc will not be joining us, but I was able to bring back our guest from last week to continue our conversation about the Dark Beyond. Blizzard guy has me confused. I think he keeps calling it something else, and now I'm not entirely sure. But Pylet, how are you this week?
Doing well. How about you?
Not so bad. How about yourself, WorldEight? How are you today?
Today I'm good. Yeah, it's October and spooky season. I'm happy.
And I have a feeling this will be a shorter episode than last week, given that we have less classes to talk about. And apparently I was the only one paying attention during theorycrafting. But anyway, WorldEight. And apparently no one's playing Hearthstone right now. So WorldEight, what have you been doing inside the world of Hearthstone?
Outside of the world of Hearthstone has been pretty low key for me this week. I had a very busy life outside of Hearthstone this week. And so, the meta right now really hasn't tipped to me to playing the game. I jammed just enough games to get my quests done. And, I think I'm within 11x range in Wild. So might just camp there through the end of the month. With only a few days left, and play a lot of Brawl. I'm really excited for the Brawl this week. I think it's a really interesting format. So just kind of treading water, which is fine. And sometimes that's what we do. What about you, Tito?
Oh, well, I have been playing not a whole lot of Hearthstone, honestly. I did the theory crafting, which we'll talk about later, and that was kind of like my plan for Hearthstone for the week. I've done enough to do my quests, and I've streamed. Actually, we did 2 nights of Civilization this week instead of Hearthstone, which was, kind of nice. It's that very last week of lull before everything gets busy again. In fact, we get to get busy a week earlier with that Brawl, which we'll talk about probably in a few minutes. But play some duos with Pylet here, and I'm sure we'll mention a little bit about that. But overall, it's just been kind of quiet. I've climbed a little bit, but also failed a lot after I started. The deck I've been having the most fun with is the Shafar Rogue, which is a little quirky. It's not very good. I know it's not very good, but it's a lot of fun. And that's, what I'm looking for right now. A lot of fun before the new expansion. So we did that. Pylet, how about yourself? What have you been doing inside the world of Hearthstone? Actually, Pylet.
Hang on. You can't pass the duos thing on to me when it was you doing the weird thing, not me this time.
Okay, fine. Okay, so Pylet and I play duos quite a bit, and I think you all know that. So I had a build where I had, I think, 4 golden Managamoose, and yes. I thought I was the cat's pajamas. I'm like, Pylet had some big minions. This is gonna go great. He had things with Divine Shield. Turns out you can only summon a minion from the other person's board with Managamoose once. Once you do it, it gets locked. And I had reborns. They were getting reborn. So they weren't just golden. They were a golden reborn. I thought we were going to have them for days. But once you resummon 7 minions with Managamoose, you're all done. So that was kind of disappointing. I kind of hurt myself by going full into the bit. But to my I don't know what, to my credit, I didn't know that's how that worked. And you didn't know that either. And we got confirmation from Hat and Mitchell that's not the way it works. So oh well, it was fun. But Pylet, you have actually done the opposite of not playing Hearthstone. You've been playing a decent amount of Hearthstone, and how's that going for you?
Yeah. Before I get into my standard stuff, to tag off of what Tito was saying with duos, from my perspective, I'm just like, okay, he's going beast. He got the goose portrait. I'll, give him a bluebird. I gave him a Gulakabra just in case. And then, he had a Magnanimous that he used to just get through a combat. And then the next combat, his board pops up with 4 of them. I'm like, what is happening? What is going on? It worked because I was playing Elemental, so I was scaling. So it just took my stats and, we got through to second place until we got smacked around by a bunch of, 4-digit statted mechs. But it was interesting. As far as me playing standard, I haven't been playing a lot compared to what I normally do or like to. Just during the week, I was just crazy busy with school and work, and we had parent-teacher conferences, so I had a lot of late days. But then this weekend I had some more time to play because things have settled down. And I went on one of the best hot streaks I think I've ever had. Outside of like the first time I started to play Wild and was just, running through people because my MMR was so low as a legend player. I went 19-3 this weekend up to top 200. I don't quite know how I got that hot streak, but I will take it because I felt like I was just kind of treading water for a while. But I played a few games of Wheel Warlock, lost the first one, won like 3 in a row, finished up my whatever quest I was trying to do. So then I switched over to the Pirate Wave of Nostalgia Shaman and ended up with, I think, a 15-game win streak by the time I finally lost. And then kind of kept going. Today I just played a few games of Double Frost, one Unholy Death Knight, the Razzle Dazzle, and won 3 or 4 games there to crack back into top 200 for the first time in about a year. So I'm happy with that. It felt like I was playing really well, and I kind of lucked out with I was getting really good matchups the whole way because I was pretty much running over rogues the entire time. And that's what a lot of people were playing. So it worked out very well for me.
Any notable names you beat on your climb to 200?
Yeah, I did play WorldEight. That was earlier in the week. That was on DK also because we had a really good back and forth game. And then I don't remember what was in the Razzle Dazzle. I just remember it won me the game on the spot because you had no answer to it.
Yeah, it was a really good Razzler. It was like 6 minions, and one of them was like Sandcastle, another one was like Divine Shield, and it just, I didn't even mean for the game to go that long, but it was over.
So, yeah, I've started to get to where I'm recognizing names again. Played Pizza, played Micaiah Time. I lost to someone who was top 4 in a Masters tour. Found out later on. So it's been nice to get back up there again.
Yeah, he messaged me. He's like, who is this person? Why do they have a golden card back? He's like, oh, okay, never mind. They came in 4th place in a Master Store. I understand now. And I believe you won that game, right?
I did not.
Oh.
That was one I was behind most of the game, about fought back, and then I could not find the healing that I needed to survive one more turn.
Fair enough. But well, since you're talking and you're telling us all about what's in Hearthstone, you've been quite busy outside of Hearthstone too, haven't you?
Yeah, just finishing up the marching band season. We are done finally. We had our last stuff this past weekend, so we're doing kind of our end of the year party at our rehearsal this week, and then I have some more evenings free again, and no more, fewer 14 and 18-hour days, hopefully. Outside of that, because I've been trying to just jam some Hearthstone when I can, haven't really played many other games this week. I did get a chance yesterday morning to play a little bit more Lorcana, one of the game stores relatively close by. I live out in the middle of nowhere, so close by is like a 30 to 45 minute drive for me. But they do like just an open, casual play on Saturday mornings, and finally got to go to that and have some people there, so got to play 3 or 4 games and just kind of hang out for a little bit.
Fantastic. Are you starting to dominate that game like you're dominating the top 200 Legend of Hearthstone?
No, I'm still figuring that game out, but I did finally win one.
Hey, there you go. How about yourself, WorldEight? I know you're big into the spooky season. You had a big party last week. How are things this week?
It was actually a pretty crazy week. Some ups, some downs. Leading off, I did get a job offer after a 4th round interview, so that's very exciting. Starts in 3 weeks, yeah. So I feel good about that, but of course I've started all these huge projects around the house that I need to finish in the next 2 weeks, or they'll never get done again. But it's still good news, and the other thing that was kind of a challenge this week is that my son has got like apnea, kind of. He's only 2, but he's got these like really huge, like really enlarged tonsils his whole life. He always has strep, things like that. And so we took him to a sleep study. And if you're not familiar with the sleep study, They hook you up with all kinds of sensors, and including ones that are on your head. And he had a little tube up his nose. He's too little. He's 2 years old, and he didn't understand what was going on. He basically was like a mummied cask kind of thing. And I stayed the night with him, and it was just awful. I mean, he finally fell asleep, but it was after hours and hours and hours of screaming at me. I was very fortunate that this was probably the only visit we need to do like this. I know some people struggle with this more than that, but that was a tough night. Not just the lack of sleep, but I care a lot for him, and to see him that upset for that long was difficult. But focusing on the positive, Halloween is this week, and so my older son wants to be Sonic, which is pretty cool. And the younger son, who doesn't speak at all, has discovered Young Jedi on Disney. And Young Jedi, he kind of doesn't really understand what's going on. All he knows is they have lightsabers. And I gotten these chopsticks that are lightsabers a while ago, and he discovered them in the drawer, and he's been playing little lightsaber chopsticks for the last 2 weeks. So he's going to be a Jedi for Thursday on Halloween this week. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, and one time, a few weeks ago, last time WorldEight was on, not last week, but the last time before that, he had uploaded the wrong file. He loved the last time he was on. So I sat down to do my editing. I'm like, this seems really weird, because it started off, it almost lined up, and then it didn't. I was really confused at what happened. And I'm like, hey, WorldEight, you mind uploading the file from this week? And he's like, yeah, I'm a little busy. I'm at the hospital with my son. I'm like, oh, whoops, sorry. I felt bad, but yeah, there's no worse feeling than when your kid is sick or hurt and there's zero you can do about it. All you can do is manage whatever you can manage and just help them through it. It is like the worst feeling in the world. So I'm glad your son. Hopefully that they get the information they needed out of that sleep study, and it's the last time you have to do it, because that's no fun. Myself, so this week has been busy. Hopefully we had the theory crafting. That was kind of like the highlight of the week, but I wasn't able to donate the full amount of time to theory crafting. Like I would love to do 12 hours, but I couldn't. I could only do, they did like a 3-hour stream in the afternoon and a 3-hour stream at night. Because I'm still trying to find work, and I did I'm part of a local group that is part of networking, and it meets every other week. And I really can't skip that, because I'm trying to put every effort. I need every effort, everything I can, and any lead I can get is important. So we did that. And then this weekend was all about my son. He had soccer practice Friday night. He had his last soccer game of the season on Saturday. Yeah, yesterday, Saturday. And he had a Halloween party, and we also went pick pumpkins. And then today we went to a local mall to do Pokemon and played Minecraft and a bunch of other things. So it was kind of all about him and hanging out, and good times. It's crazy how fast the weekend can go. But it is what it is. So that's what we've been doing. Oh, there was something else I wanted to say, but I completely forgot. That train left the station. So we're just going to move on. So the Dark Beyond. We've talked about most of the classes, but we're going to go over the last 3 classes we didn't get to. And we'll sprinkle in a little information, I guess, about the theory crafting. Now, I thought WorldEight, I thought you caught more than you did, because I know I definitely saw you that day, and I appreciate you sending me a couple decks. And Pylet, I know you came in late. But let's talk about the Shaman set. So Shaman has some interesting cards. And the thing that came in, spoilers for the talk about theory crafting, but Rock Shaman or Asteroid Shaman was really kind of the thing that took off. There's a few cards here that revolve around Asteroid Shaman. You have a Ultraviolet Breaker, which is a 3-mana 3/2. Battlecry, deal 3 damage to an enemy minion, shuffle 3 asteroids into your deck. So this is a lot like bombs or explosions or whatever they're called from Ignis, not Ignis. What's the card that Insidious?
Mm-hmm.
You also have a 4-mana 3/6. These are all elementals. Bold-Eyed Behemoth, Battlecry. Your asteroids deal 1 more damage this game. Spellburst, shuffle 3 of them into your deck. So even if you don't get the spell burst off, it really doesn't matter. And you also have Meteor Swarm, deal 5 damage to all minions, shuffle 5 asteroids into your deck. And if you need to find some asteroids, you have Triangulate, which is a 2-mana spell. Discover a different spell from your deck, shuffle 3 copies of it into your deck. There's a neutral minion that shuffles asteroids too. These all work really well. And then Meteor Swarm also works really well with the legendary Farseer Nobundo. Death Rattle. It's a 5-mana 6/4 Death Rattle. Open the Galaxy's Lens. It absorbs the power of the next spells you cast. So this location that it generates, the next spell you cast, then now I think you get to cast it twice, maybe 3 times, but I think it's twice. So you get a Meteor Storm into that, and then you play that right away, and it's just meteors for days. WorldEight, what are your thoughts on Shaman here, and I guess especially Meteor Shaman?
Well, I mean, there's actually a second direction here, which is like kind of a big spell Shaman, worth noting. But first of all, I a long time ago, before WoW even came out, there was a MMO called City of Heroes. It's kind of a little more obscure, but you could create your own hero and run around and do things with other players. And my main character, I called him Meteor Storm. He was a Firestone tank guy, and one of the appeals of the game is that you could write backstories and a lot of customer, character customization. And anyway, that was my character, Meteor Storm. And so I have a very I think this is a cool archetype, because not just because of that, but there is a fondness there. I think that these longer game effects being tied to the elementals, we kind of touched this with Mage last time we talked. I think that makes it a lot more interesting than just your linear tribal. But especially with like Meteor Storm, it leads to perhaps even intending to be a slightly slower deck. I mean, if you start thinking about your elemental, like your Scar and your Meteor Storm, and like you're just like your opponent doesn't ever have board, and so all these asteroids going face is pretty cool, and a very thematic theme for the set. I think, I don't know what the power level is going to be, because I mean, if the asteroids keep hitting tokens, it's kind of like when the sludges had a hard time. The sludge decks were really powerful when it all went face, but when the sludges were hitting like mining casualties, it didn't feel as good. So maybe similar power level, but I do want to touch on that. Murmur is just an absolutely insane legendary, which is a 6-mana 6/6 battle cries, cost 1, immediately die. And now this is not a forever in the game effect, but anything like this is just a very powerful text box, and you can do several things with it, and then kind of either it lives or it dies later itself. And so just a really interesting card to build around, especially when you have something like Parrot Sanctuary. So you play this, you click on Parrot Sanctuary, then you get a 0 cost, do something big, and you can do that until you run out of location charges. So a lot of possibility there. There's also, as I mentioned, kind of this big spell package, which centers around Nebula. 9 mana, discover 2 8 cost minions, give them Taunt and Elusive. And so what you're trying to do is, they have Cosmonaut, which is 7 mana, discover spell, reduce its cost by 5. So you want to lead this into Nebula. And then there's the Planetary Navigator, which next Draenei costs 2 less. So, you kind of, the ideal curve, right, is that you're getting the Nebula down on, turn 6 or something. I'm a little skeptical of that. They've tried to do big spell shaman in the past, actually. Way back in Nathria, there was forget what they called it. It was a 10 mana card, and summon all your minions, and then they die and they go back to your hand. Pylet looks like he knows what I'm talking about, but it was kind of cute, but never competitive. But I love the asteroid, both for theme reasons, and I think the power level is probably there. I'm excited to play with these cards, and that's always a strong thing for me, that I'm going to try and work to make this deck work.
if theory crafting is any indication, it usually isn't, but I think that everyone's going to be complaining about Meteor Shaman on day 1 and day 2. And it doesn't mean it's going to be the best deck. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a power outlier for longer than a couple days, but it felt really strong. It felt very powerful, and it really was. It was fun, but it was also not fun to lose to. So this is my prediction of the one that people are going to really, really hate. After real, like, you're my friend. I have a real life friend who plays Hearthstone, and he usually hates a lot of things like that. I know day 1 he's going to be like, this Meteor Shaman, man, I don't think I'm playing Hearthstone anymore. And that's his MO. But Pylet, what are your thoughts on the Shaman set?
Yeah, I agree. The Meteor Asteroid Shaman seems like it, in theory, will be somewhat straightforward to build as just a aggro. If you go the elemental route, just kind of tribal into some burn. Normally those end up getting figured out early and then countered pretty quickly after the first couple days. So I do agree that I'll probably have the sludge warlock problem of, if your asteroids are all hitting little tokens, then it doesn't really matter as much unless it's letting you keep the board and hit face there. I don't have too much more to add. I like the look of Nebula. That's a card that I'm just a sucker for cards like that, where it's just like, oh, let's use a big spell to just make a bunch of big minions with something extra and see if it works. And sometimes it does. Normally it doesn't. First Contact is, I think, the only card that we didn't talk about, which is a pretty solid aggro card. 1 mana, summon 2 random 1-cost minions, overload 1. That pretty much slots into any aggro shaman that doesn't need every card to fit like a tribe or something like that. So I think that kind of helps fill out a possible archetype there if we have enough now, or as we go into next year, just kind of filling out an aggro shaman as some stuff rotates in and out.
I don't even know if that needs to go in an aggro shaman either, right? It's just a solid.
It's just a good card. Yeah,
that's gonna. Yeah, it's just a very good card. One interaction to note: if you play Murmur and then you play the Ceaseless Expanse or the Endless Expanse, whatever it is, the 100 mana card, it kills Murmur, but then doesn't die because Murmur's effect is no longer there. So that is a good way to cheat out a 15/15 that costs 100 mana. So just something to notice. Other people are going to be doing it. I'm sure it's going to be not as good as it seems, but it definitely has some potential there. So, Pylet, let's talk about Paladin. What are your thoughts on the Paladin set here?
We have Librams back. So I'm actually excited about that. We have all different Librams that they brought back, but they have a similar, feel to the past ones where, you're able to reduce the cost, and then a lot of them have some sort of additional effect. So, there's one that summons 3/3s with Divine Shield. If that spell costs 0, then they get Rush. There's one that gives a minion +3/+3. If it costs 0, return it to your hand at the end of the turn, which is very different from the past one that was a Death Rattle. And then another Libram that draws. So, and then we have cards that reduce. Gurel is a really interesting add. Rush, Death Rattle, get 3 different Librams from an older timeline. So that's pulling some of our Librams from the past. And I think that we saw how strong Librams were before. And I don't know if these are as individually powerful as the past ones, but I definitely think that they're strong enough to build a deck around like you did before.
One note on Uriel, it will not bring back the corrupted weapon. They didn't want to bring corrupted weapon into. I don't know if that's just wild or standard, but I just standard if it's also wild. But that's one option that isn't there. So let me ask you this: you have a 4-mana 4/2 Interstellar Wayfarer, Divine Shield, Battlecry, reduce the cost of your Librams by 1 this game. You have the Interstellar Star Slicer, which is a 3-mana 2/3 weapon, Battlecry and Death Rattle, reduce the cost of your Librams by 1 per game. And boy, I wish I was a 3/2, and so does everybody. But with these cards in play, it takes some work to get these Librams to cost 0. Um, and you have a neutral that lets you replay the last arena you played, that you can play the it gives you a copy of the last arena you played. So there are ways to do it. But how do you feel about these Librams if you are not playing them at zero? Like if you're playing them throughout the game, do they still have a good rate in your opinion, or do you need to get them to zero?
I don't think you need to get them to zero, but I definitely think that you're trying to pretty hard. Like the Libra of Faith, which is the one that summons the 3/3/3s with Divine Shield. If you don't need the rush, then you don't really care. I mean, if you get that down to 1, 2, 3, that's still a really good deal on that. I think Libra of Divinity, the buff that returns to your hand, is the one that you care about reducing the most, so that you can keep doing that.
Fair enough. WorldEight, what are your thoughts on the set?
Yeah, I mean the Paladin set is pretty much Librams, and peppered with the Draenei tag. There are 3 other cards that are not Libram related, but I honestly like Orbital Satellite is fine. Discovered a Draenei, discovered 2. If you play the adjacent card, it's a cool orbital card. Don't think it'll see play, honestly. The Lumia seems super powerful. 6 mana, 9/9 lifesteal. After a hero takes damage, they become immune. I mean, it's just a huge thing to you. It's fine if this is your only minion. You just hit them for 9 until they die. And they're not gonna outrace a 9/9 lifesteal. And then the last one is the Celestial Aura, 6 mana aura for 3 turns. If you have 1 minion, its attack and health are 10. When I read this card, I thought like the health would always stay at 10. So even if you bumped into it, it would just go back to 10, which I thought was like super powerful, which is not the case, but still an interesting card. In terms of Librams and the discounts and all that, during theory crafting, I actually had past Tito a list that had, the whole bunch of Librams, but it also had like a little bit on the lower side of things, so that we could also run. Like it had Holy Cowboys and Seashells to discount the stuff. So what you really wanted to do was just discount them one time. So your Clarity would be 0 easily, or your Divinity like pretty easily could be 0. Not all the time, but like if you Holy Cowboy and then you have a free Divinity and then it comes back, that's pretty good. After watching the theory crafting streams, like Libram of Clarity, if it's a 2 mana, draw 2, that's really solid. That's a Swindle. Swindle's a really good card. Going rate for drawing 2 minions at 2 mana, it's very good. So then I kind of considered all of them. They're all really good at just even 1 mana discount, and then I would consider them strong at 2 mana discount, much less all the other shenanigans you can do with them. I think one of the things that we want to watch out for are ways to actually break the slicer early. I passed this list over to Tito and I'm like, what if we like play like Whack-A-Mole or Muster for Battle just to like break the weapon, so we don't have to wait 3 turns. So that might be interesting too. I think if you play the Star Slicer into Conman, it'll break it. You won't get the second battle cry, but still not an awful play. Something to consider. And yeah, I like Librams in terms of they were always like it was like a 52% deck, right? Like it was always like a solid choice, like a good tournament bring. Like if you ever felt like, I don't know what my last deck's gonna bring, it's like, hey, just bring Libram Paladin. But it never felt like incredibly overpowerful. So I'm glad to see the impact come back. I really like that they've taken what they had before and made adjustments and made them different. These all definitely feel different for good reasons. And it still feels like it fits the space theme. Like the Wayfarer has like jetpacks on, and the Libram of Faith has I forget what those are called. Like it has the Space Angels.
The Naru.
Tito, you probably know the Naru, yeah. But I mean, like it's got that on there. So, and the just like interstellar celestial stuff. Like the flavor's really good here. I'm sure if Doc was here, he'd probably say the same. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Paladin set. It can be sometimes a little boring with how linear Paladin could be, but I feel like this is non-linear, right? Like you're doing a little bit of a snowball effect over the course of a game. So excited to see where this goes.
And I think linear gets a bad rap. Like obviously, if you're a more competitive player and you're trying to improve and whatnot, like the more complex decks are going to keep you more interested. Oh, look, I have to figure out how to play 17,000 different rogue cards. We'll talk about that. But like just because a deck is moderately linear does not necessarily mean that there are no decisions to be made. And you can still learn a lot and you can still be very successful with the deck like that. So if you're having fun and someone's like, oh, you're just playing a curved stone deck or something like that, it is what it is. Like I have played a lot of Paladin. Some decks are more complicated than others. And I've been trying to branch out lately and play other decks that are more combo centric or more high skill cap. But just because if you like a deck and it happens to be a linear, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So don't ever feel bad about playing a deck that you enjoy or that you want to play. And I think it's interesting with the Paladin set. I'm looking forward to playing Librams. I think that it's most of the times when you get a set, I always feel like the class has two different directions it tries to go to, whether or not it's successful or not. But usually you have like, you can do elementals or you can do big spells or whatever it is. I feel like this is all in on the Librams here. Obviously, you have a couple of cards that don't necessarily fit into that with like Lumia and Celestial Aura and whatever. But for the most part, it just feels like that's the direction this set goes and it's fine. But WorldEight, I have a question for you. How do you feel like these Librams are going to factor in Wild into a Libram Paladin with the old Librams? Like, are we cooking?
A little bit. I mean, but Wild's gonna be broken for other reasons from this set. Like this set's gonna be pretty crazy and Wild. We can talk about the Rogue cards, but I think Rogue's gonna break Wild in half, and the other classes aren't gonna really matter. Because you just play your old deck and kill them on like 3. Or the Paladin deck in Wild is gonna be do 100 damage to your opponent's face. So Wild's gonna be a little silly for a bit, and Wild is silly, but if the dust settles there, I think Clarity and Divinity both are going to be really strong because you can tutor your Libram discounters, and they're a lot better than what we have here. You don't have to wait till like turn 5 for these to be reasonably free. So probably lead to a pretty solid deck. I was actually jamming a lot of like the Sea Shanty Paladin in Wild, and it's really not bad there. You have like a little bit more support with reasons for buffing your own stuff. In addition to Sea Shanty, there's a whole bunch of like the old Acolyte, forget his name, that like was discounted every time you targeted your own minion, that kind of stuff. So there is it Aldor Attendant? No, I think that's the discounter. Anyway, there is more support in Wild as always, but I don't think they're going to this is going to be influential right away. But good question.
Fair enough. So speaking of Rogue, Rogue has a couple different directions. One is starships. And I'm going to say I really, really like the theming of the Rogue starships because they don't have their own starship pieces, really. They have, hey, steal something else. They're scavengers. Like, go give me a piece from this starship or that starship. And it gives you random pieces, and then they build their starship from that. So I really kind of like that. It almost feels like it's like Firefly kind of thing where they're, random kind of, building stuff where you can make it happen and all that. So I really like the theme of that. I don't know how good it was. I read there were some bugs in theorycrafting with that. I had a bug where I had 2 Wind Fury starships that were pretty good, and I attacked. I was able to attack each of them twice, but they just kind of hung there and nothing happened. So, but on my opponent's end, they actually did attack. So it was a bug. It was nice. It was nice to be able to report something because normally I haven't had that opportunity. But the other deck that Rogue has, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but they have kind of combo heavy. Finally got Rhyme Spinner a chance to shine. I had some pretty big rhyme spinners. To that card never really that card always looked like it would see play, but it never really did, right? I don't think. But the problem, well, we don't have to talk about the problem yet. We'll talk about the problem later. But Quasar is a 6-mana spell. Shuffle your hand into your deck, reduce the cost of cards into your deck by 3. And you say, wait a second, didn't we have a Warlock deck that did something very similar to that, where it would like discount all the cards and shuffle them into your deck? And the thing with Rogue is you have Knick-Knack Shacks, you have Quick Picks, and you have what's the sevens spell?
Triple sevens, something like that.
Triple sevens. So you can draw, once you draw a 777, the game's over. So there's a lot of fun to be had there. Pylet, what are your thoughts on the Rogue set here?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't catch much of the theory crafting, but I know that I saw people talking about these, and they're definitely just it's a Rogue set that people are probably going to be excited to figure out how to make work and what works and what doesn't. It's interesting that they added all this combo support, 4 months before all the other combo support rotates, but that's just kind of how it goes. Sometimes it's fine, gives us a little bit of time to play around with it, but these ones definitely aren't as limiting as the other ones were from Festival of Legends, where it's just like you needed to play a ton of combo cards. This has a little bit of just like mana cheat here or things like that, so you don't have to build your entire deck around it once the rest of those rotate. Quasar is going to break something probably multiple times, but I'm not smart enough to figure out how to build that deck, and not sure if I can play that deck. The Aerodel Skulker is a card that I'm excited for, just because I enjoy aggro Rogue. I played a lot of the homemade like stealth aggro and things like that, and that is a 2-mana 1/3 combo and spell burst, gain +2 attack and stealth, and that is my kind of Rogue card. So make stealth minions, hit them in the face, and just ignore everything on board and just play face Rogue. So that's the card that I'm excited to probably try to make work, maybe in a pirate shell or something like that.
And keep in mind, do you remember we had a while there where every time the Rogues were getting a set, people were like, why this doesn't feel like Rogue? Like, I think even when they had the mechs, people were like, why are we getting the mechs? And there was a couple of other sets where like, why are we getting this? This doesn't feel like Rogue. This feels like a Rogue set. This is very, very, very Rogue.
Yes.
WorldEight, what are your thoughts here?
Slam dunk on the Rogue set. This is just a terrific Rogue set. Really great way of doing the Starship. This is one of the most interesting, Burgle sets I've seen. I want to play with it. I don't usually like Burgle stuff, but I think it's just really cool thematically that they're scavenging the other starships to do what they need to do. So that's a really cool part of it, and that's only like 4 cards of it, and yet it's still exciting. The Quasar, that thing's gonna break so much stuff. Like you said, you just need to draw 1 card, and if your whole deck costs 3 or less, then it's a miracle APM deck. And you've got eviscerates, you've got lots of combo cards that'll generate more stuff. Potentially drawing, doubling your draws like this. It's the shuffle back in your hand. If you can mitigate that, then the game's over. The good news is that this is really hard to tutor. Like, you need both Shack and Quasar to kind of go off, or Quick Pick. So the finding the Quasar on time before you die, that's going to be the tricky part. And so I think that's kind of cool. I do like combo decks that will win on 7. If they've survived and found their combo pieces. Like for me, like 7-8, like that's reasonable. A lot of people don't like that. They like their games to be like 9-10, 11-12. But I like having a combo deck in the format that kind of puts like a clock on, and as someone who enjoys aggro decks, you race them down, right? You put the clock on them. But you're kind of doing two different things. So Quasar really, it's going to be, for me, this is the number one card of the whole set, maybe. Like at least nerf candidate. Like I easily see this going to 8, to be honest. Like it's that strong. On the other hand, Pressure Point's extremely strong card too, with Sonya. Because what you can do with Pressure Points, there's a lot of 2 mana combo cards, like Eviscerate, like I was talking about. So you cast this once, you've got a handful of 2 mana combo cards, and they all become 1, and then Sonya basically is combo Wind Fury, right? Like, so you can imagine you just have some tentacle grips, you got some Eviscerates, and then they're just dead. Or O Managers for actually gaining mana and stuff like that. So we'll see how Rogue shapes out. I think it's going to be very popular. There's only, and even the Skulker, really cool card. I really like it, the fact that it'll regain stealth, right? So you play it with the combo, it's 3/3 stealth. You attack with it, and then you play another card, and then it'll become a 5/3 stealth, and then you can bonk again. Really strong card. I like it a lot. So big one on the Rogue set, and maybe I'll be eating my words when I die to like my 10th Quasar in a row. But we'll see how it goes.
And let's not sleep on. I think they got I personally think they got the best 1-drop in the set, which is Space Rock Collector, which is a 1 mana 2/1 battlecry. Your next combo card costs 1 less. This is such an early enabler, and even if you get it later, it still is a good card because you play a 1 mana card to play your combo cards, and it just goes off. So I think that's a really, really good card. So those are the last 3 sets. So we've already talked about everything else. So we're going to talk a little bit about the theory crafting event because I thought we'd have a little bit longer of a conversation, but Doc's not here, and WorldEight and Pylet only caught a little bit of it. I only had what I experienced, so let's talk about it. I listed all the classes, so we'll start and kind of go in like alphabetical order because that's the way I listed them. Death Knight, I think I saw 1 Death Knight. I didn't really see much Death Knight at all. I didn't really have an experience with them. I didn't play them. You guys have any thoughts on Death Knight?
So Vicious Syndicate has a supporters, like if you're a supporter, and then Zacho was actually streaming, and I caught a bit of it. He kind of likes those slower, more control-y decks, and he was doing that with Death Knight, and it looked pretty compelling. The gaining health part from Airlock Breach seemed super powerful. At one point, he had, I think, like 50 health, and like he was also playing Frosty Decors, so he had like 24 armor, and then he still lost to McBannerface or something because he just it still wasn't enough value, like incredibly somehow. And so like the end game is still kind of kill Jaden there. But if they get theirs online faster, you actually can never keep up. Or you need the right rolls in a certain order. I forget how he lost the game, but he did. And it was, he lost to a CNE from the other side. Like just a ridiculously enormous CNE that they'd been holding on to. And so, but in terms of like grindiness, it's going to deliver. You want a really slow grindy deck. This is a set that'll complement that. And I don't know if that'll be competitive, especially if we're seeing a lot of like combo rogues coming up that'll just kind of kill you. They don't care how slow your deck is. I think that it's the set is doing what it meant to do. And I was thinking about what I said last week with like the Death Knights in space, and I still kind of stand by that it's weird. Maybe they could have come across like an abandoned planet or something full of skeletons. I don't know. But, I think there are some cards, and it's one of those sets where there's like 1 or 2 really good cards, and like the rest of the set's kind of forgettable. But that's okay. It's better than a completely blank set.
I look at some of the set, like Orbital Moon, give a minion taunt and lifesteal if you play adjacent card this turn. Also give it Reborn. You also have Spellburst, trigger random friendly minions, Death Rattle, Exegar, Malkadar, Battlecry. The next card you play turns cost corpses instead of mana. I feel like there's some people are going to find broken things to do with this. Maybe not right away, but I'm also kind of hoping that maybe hand buff Death Knight is kind of a thing. I love the 2 mana 6, the 6, what is it, 5 mana 2/6 miniaturize. I love that card. I really want it to actually work. Then it feels like it's got some tools here. But yeah, no, I think it's weird, but I think it's interesting. The hand, I don't know if we're ever going to see the 8 hands from Beyond played, but it's interesting. Battlecry destroy both players' decks except the 8 highest card course in each. That's one way to get rid of a Quasar Rogue, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Pilot, any thoughts on the Death Knight set?
Yeah, taking off of one thing you said, I'm not sure if that hand buff deck with the miniaturize got anything here, because that only buffs undead, and we didn't get any undead in this set. That's very limiting. With that, we still have blood tap to where if you just want to go general hand buff, you possibly could. But you can't buff anything in this set with that. The only thing that I feel like there should be something here where you can build around like the death rattle stuff. I don't know if it'll be good. It feels like it's something that Funky Monkey will make. And have like a video on like a month and a half right before the mini set, when everyone's kind of like, okay, we know what the meta is, and he starts doing his own thing for a little bit, and it'll pop up then. So that's the only thing that sticks out as something I want to figure out, but I don't think it'll be good enough.
All right, fair enough. Well, speaking of figuring out, you gave me thank you, by the way. At the end of the night, you gave me a Demon Hunter deck. I wanted to play some crewmates before we left, and you gave me a deck. What are your thoughts on the decks we're seeing out of DH? Because we didn't see a lot.
I think I said this last week. I like the idea of the crewmate DH just because I enjoy those kind of just swing turn decks, mid-range, whatever you want to call it, to where if you can set it up correctly, then you're paying 4 mana for just a ton of stats with a bonus keyword. When I was building the deck for Tito, I put it together with like 5 minutes just because it's like, hey, I need something here, can you build this for me? I'm like, sure. I was in between games, so I went a very aggressive route to where I think the only reason I didn't top out at 4 is because I wanted to include like 2 of the new legendaries from the set, but there's a very strong possibility that you can top that deck out at 4 or 5 mana and just stay really low to the ground and just have a couple waves of boards that they hopefully won't be able to answer. I like the Starship in that kind of deck just because if you can go wide and get the Starship launched, then it's buffing your whole board. I personally just enjoy that style of play, but it might be a little slow and a little too predictable, but we'll see.
Fair enough. WorldEight, what are your thoughts on Demon Hunter?
I didn't really catch too much of it other than the roommates didn't look great, unfortunately. Like it was really awkward to kind of piece together what you wanted to do with them, and so they really weren't online until like turn 6-7. So pretty similar to the like Razzle Dazzler or the Mage spell, which is escaping me right now. Elemental Inspiration, maybe. Like board in a box type stuff. So that could be good, but it's nothing. I think maybe the mana is off there, or it was just theorycrafting. I'd like to see it work. We'll see if it does, but the turret and like the Starship pieces independently look really good. So I think Demon Hunter got support there, especially Demon Hunter right now doesn't have great 3-drops. These are 2 really good 3-drops, and they come back. Like you almost don't really care that they come back, but sure, like why not? They're just good minions on their own. So I think we'll see a bit of that. And it definitely seemed like, especially I was thinking a lot more about this later after the show last week about how this is basically an arid elemental, right? There's no drawback to it, right? Like the arid elemental was a 2/5 rush Wind Fury, and you had to play an elemental the turn before. This is a 2/5 rush Wind Fury, and it comes back like this, like with no requirements. What a power creep there. So good minion, and I could easily see this just being on its own. So I would like to have seen more Demon Hunter, but everyone seemed to be doing flashier things than just bonking people with aggro decks.
And actually, I've been wondering about that. I wonder if we're going to see some Starship pieces being played just because they're good cards, and it's not necessarily a Starship deck. Yeah, maybe you get a Starship, maybe you launch it at some point when you have nothing better to do, but you're just running the cards because they're good. Speaking of good cards, Druid, I played a few Druids, but to me, it just kind of felt like old Druid because it's just Druid ramping and then doing really big minion things, and it didn't really. Yeah, maybe the cards are different, but it just felt like the same old to me. It's just like, okay, I'm at 5 mana, you're at 10 mana, you're dropping a bunch of different things, and yeah, great. WorldEight, any thoughts on the Druid set here?
All I saw were ramp decks. Nothing really that interesting, to be honest, and they were just playing like they had like the 10 card requirement. So Final Frontier we saw a lot of, and the discount one, but I didn't catch anything terribly creative. So like not like maybe one Starship deck, but there was one very creative one I saw, which is someone did a cover artist on Stargrazer, which is the Guff the Tough spell burst. So they're able to get 16 attack, 16 armor. I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of setup. But maybe it's worth something ramping into.
Yeah, I saw a lot of the Final Frontier, which is a 7-mana spell, discover a 10-cost minion from the past, set a cost to 1. I saw quite a bit of Kuhn. I saw quite a bit of Yogg, old Yogg. It felt like that was very consistent in what people were drawing, or maybe it was just luck, but it seemed like they were pretty able to get a small enough pool where it's just going to be almost reliable on what they can necessarily generate. Pylet, any thoughts on the Druid set here as far as the decks you might have saw or whatever?
I didn't see any Druid with a little bit of time that I watched, and I don't know. Nothing sticks out to me. I think the Arcane package will have a home next year because I think there's only one Arcane spell that rotates at the new year, and it might actually be 0. So that's probably setting up better next year, but I don't think it has the support quite yet.
Fair enough. I don't remember what deck I was playing. I remember I played Clark Hellscream a couple times in a row, and the thing about the theory crafting is you have a very limited pool of people. So if you queue right away, you queue right into that same person. I played multiple people in a row, 2 or 3 times in a row, and I had to like step away and all that. But I remember I had one game against Clark, and I forget what he was playing, and I don't know if I have it. I'll have to look into it. But he played a game, and he was playing anything that would prevent me from playing spells. He was playing the 1 mana 2/3, 2 mana 2/3, the whatever it is, the brain hurt. The one that makes your spells cost 1 more next turn, and speaker stompers and all that stuff. And I was like, come on, we're in theorycraft, and why are we doing this? And yes, obviously you have to, if you want to play slower stuff, you have to, get there. Otherwise you're gonna get there. But it's like, come on, do we have to really play these cards in order to get there? He beat me that first game. I queued into him, and I beat him the second game, and that felt really good. But yeah, it's just like you want to play things and people are playing things that are making mana cost more or Reno or whatever. It's like, why are we doing this? I believe Eve, Loremaster Eve, destroyed my spaceship once with the Volpura. I was like, really? We're running that guy? Really? We're killing spaceships on Spaceship Day? What are we doing? But yeah, it's fair. You play what you're going to play. Hunter felt really good. Exarch Naeli, 3 mana 3/4 battle cry. Replace your hero power with your tracking is gross. Rangari Scout, 1 mana 1/2. After you discover a card, get a copy of it. Gross. And gross in a good way. It was very, very strong. Gorham the World Eater actually was playable. You play him on 3, you drop eggs next to him. The nice thing about him is he is a 3 mana 12/12 dormant for 5 turns. At the end of your turn, destroy a minion to the right of this to awaken 1 turn sooner. So that means that you can be focused on what you're putting there. So you're not just having minions getting eaten if you don't want them to get eaten, if you don't draw what you want to do. The extraterrestrial egg felt really good. Everything about this felt really good. I believe I played a Starship Hunter, which was eh. I wasn't quite there with that one yet, but I mean, obviously it might be fine. But Big Hunter felt really good. Big Egg Hunter felt really good. So, Pilot, I know you saw. I think you saw a little bit of the Hunter. What are your thoughts?
I did. I saw. I know Storm Rage was doing Starship, and I think it was Big Hunter and Starship stuff, and was actually using Gorm and Yodeler to trigger the Starship Death Rattle, because the one piece Biopod Death Rattle deal damage equal to this minion's attack to a random enemy. So, trying to set up, clearing the board and then doing a Yodeler or something like that to just deal a bunch of face damage and, a scuffed, fireball to pyroblast type damage, which seemed to work well enough that he kept doing it. So I think that there might be more with the Starship than I originally thought with this, but the egg deck definitely is the one that has my attention.
Mr. 8?
Yeah, I this is one where I caught probably one game of each archetype. The Starship looked very unimpressive, even when they had the Biopod and the Yodeler and stuff like that, because you still had to work to get there. Then you had to work to clear the board. It seemed like a lot of work, and then I think at one point the Biopod got silenced or something, and it couldn't contribute to the Starship, and so the whole game plan went down. It was gone. Or if you don't find the Biopod, the claw's okay, it's actually a pretty decent minion, but you're kind of building around the Biopod. But the egg looks really good, which not really surprising, to be honest. And Exarch looks good too, but I don't know if you want to build around her. It's still a question mark to me, as if this is just good cards. You play Scout with Titanford traps and alien encounters and detailed notes, and that might just be enough, in a tracking. And this is just a small 4 to 5 card package that's just good. Shaman's in this place right now where I can take 20 cards from Shaman and they're just great cards, and then it's okay, after that, Dazzler or Wave of Nostalgia or Horn, who cares? The last 10 cards are just kind of whatever you feel because the 20 card base is so good for Shaman right now, and I feel this pushes Hunter very much in that direction of, okay, you got your Patrick Pals, you've got your Titanford traps, kind of a little bit of a lot of stuff all contributing at the same time, and then you can lean more into one way or another. But in terms of reinforcing archetypes, eggs. I think it's going to be a lot of. We're going to be eating some good breakfast here.
Yeah, Breakfast Hunter, love it. So next is Mage. I played 2 different mages. I played a Elemental Fire Mage, and I played a Draenei Mage. Draenei. I'm sorry. I watched the video. I listened to the song Leo put out, but I didn't really listen all that hard, so I'm not sure if I'm going to say it right. The Draenei Mage felt okay. I mean, it was okay. That's probably a deck that needs a lot more work to be refined. The Elemental Fire Mage felt really, really, really good. Sauron into the Elemental that plays a copy of itself for each elemental you've played this turn. Into fire spells is really good. Blasteroid felt really good. Solar Flare felt really good. Blazing Accretion felt really good. All the fire elemental stuff felt really, really good. The Draenei stuff it's hard to tell. I think that's going to be a more nuanced deck. But yeah, no, I think we're also going to be a little overwhelmed by the amount we see Elemental Mage at the start. I think it's really strong and it's very straightforward, but it's fun and it's powerful. Pilot, I know you're a Mage fan. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. This isn't normally the type of mage that I play. I prefer, spell or burn, which I guess this has the burn, but with it being, the wave of elementals into burn, it's close to what I enjoy. If I'm playing a tempo tribal deck, I personally need to have some sort of from hand damage, or else I just am miserable playing it. Just personal play preference. So I'm excited to play that. I think it's going to be similar to like the Asteroid Shaman, to where it already has a strong shell that it kind of fits into, with, you know, Elemental Mage being a deck that has been played. So you just swap these in for, you know, something else that was just kind of filling in spots because it said the word elemental on it, and then you go with it for the first couple days. But we'll see if it has enough staying power, because we kind of had the same thing at the beginning of this set with Lamplighter, and, you know, that kind of slowly fell off as other things got refined and were more powerful than it. I wonder if the Draenei stuff has a better chance when you're not trying to force the 10 card requirement, and being a theory crafting, because I could definitely see something where like there's, you know, 7 to 8, you know, Draenei cards that you want to play, but not 10, in some sort of control slower mage deck, to where it's kind of your top end, or it's complementing something else that you're doing, but not necessarily your full on build around win condition.
Fair enough. How about yourself, Mr. 8?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't catch a game of the Draenei mage, so no comment there, but Fire Elemental looks really good. In particular, Blastoid is impressive, like how good the fire spell pool is. Random fire spells are really good. Actually makes me feel like Supernova might be a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Just because there's like, fill your hand, like, and if you play this and you get like, I don't know, 7 cards, like probably half of them are really good. You know, you could have, you know, I don't know, there's just like a lot of really good cards for 1 mana, and Solar Flare is just like, even without the spell damage, just a really great card for the archetype. So
It's really good with the spell damage too. Really good.
yeah, I think I'm still like pessimistic about Saroon. But if you time, I mean, I guess that's one of those ones where if you time it right and you plan it out correctly, you'll get rewarded. But I don't know, the deck buffs. I mean, this just strikes me as like a black rock and roll looking really good in theory crafting, right? Like for like like for 4 theory craft streams in a row, black rock and roll looked like the strongest deck by a huge margin, and then it never worked out. Deck buffing is just really tough when it actually, like, when you hit the road. But there are some really good like immediate includes, and it looks fun, honestly. Like, you know, play your strong minions and then send the rest to face. Like, that's a type of deck that I enjoy.
Fair enough. And as somebody that has tried to make black rock and roll work many times, this card is better. This card, because you have so many elementals that you're going to draw. It doesn't have to be all the elementals. You're going to keep drawing fire spells that you shuffle into your deck. It is stronger because it's not all in to make things. It's just like when you play it, great. It keeps your elemental pool going, and it also gives you something in the future. It has a body to it where black rock and roll doesn't. It was a much stronger card. Okay, so next is Paladin. We already talked about Paladin. Does anybody have anything else they want to add before we move on? Because I know we don't want to double up on it. I'm looking forward to Paladin.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw with Paladin, the Librams weren't as good as I thought they were going to be, but I heard a lot of people saying that they're super strong. So maybe I just didn't see the right build for them, or it was, hey, this is a really strong mid-range strategy into like kind of a slower meta. Like, but I don't know. Well, I was actually a little frustrated, Tito, when you were playing the deck, and I was like, just get the thing to 0. Like, what are you messing around with like free Hi-Ho Silver Wings and stuff? Like, get your Librams to 0. You're not like, that's what the deck's supposed to be doing. But you know, I wasn't in the pilot seat, so.
Well, also during theory crafting, I'm more worried about, you know, just playing cards and talking about things and whatnot. So I'm not necessarily concerned about winning, because at the end of the day, my rank there doesn't matter, and just having fun. But yeah, I understand you completely. It can be a little frustrating. All right, so Priest I played some Priest. I don't think Priest is that good. I think everyone thought we had a really good Priest set. I wasn't super impressed. I did get Mystified Tocha to go off against Storm Rage. I didn't care if I won or lost the game. I just wanted to make my health 42. I did it. Yay. I will say that Velen, I think, is overrated. I think everyone's excited for Velen, but all the battle cries and death rattles are all, a lot of them are about like buffing Draenei in your hand and whatnot. And by the time you're playing down on 7 or 8 or whatever it is, I mean, we had games where we had like 4 Velens on the board each because we copied them and all, whatever. And it just didn't really feel like it did anything. It felt like a lot of the battle cries and death rattles just kind of whiffed because those battle cries and death rattles don't matter at that point. So I mean, obviously theory crafting things aren't refactored or refined. So it could be wrong. It could be the strongest card in the game, but just the way it was played during theory crafting, I wasn't that impressed. And the set didn't really feel all that strong to me. And I did see a few priests. So any thoughts on that? Pylet or WorldEight, whoever wants to go first?
Trying to look through what the Draenei are that it might be wanting to use. I mean, Velen's still just, I mean, it's a value pile at the top end of a control deck, isn't it? I mean, you're not trying to do something super crazy with it. You're just like, okay, let's do all these things over again and make something with it in a control priest. Yeah, because there's not a lot that is much that you want to possibly copy other than summoning a copy of your next one. There is one that gives you 3 temporary Draenei, and then another one that I lost track of. Oh, that gives you holy spells that cost 3 less. Those are probably 2 that priest could find a use for, but I mean, I think it's just meant to be top end of a slower deck.
Fair enough. Any thoughts on priest?
So in the wild channels, a card that's been talked a little bit about is Anchorite. So Anchorite is when it's a Draenei, 3 mana, 2/4, and it's whenever another minion is overhealed, give it that much health. And so what you do is you pair this with Crazed Alchemist, which switches health and attack. And so in like the wild community, there's a card that'll double health. So you can imagine you pretty easily get this to like 30 and then you swap and go face. Or if you're running Vol'jin, Vol'jin essentially gives your minions Wind Fury. You have 2 that can get through. So that could definitely have potential for being like a modified overheal priest, which is not control-y, but more swarm the deck like Zarimi, but instead of having the Zarimi top end, what you're doing is more like Naga Priest, like Bless, like Devour Bless kind of finisher, right? Where you've built up this really big board and you just, whatever, something's got a huge butt and then it goes face. So like, it's got like 16 health or something, right? Because you keep healing it with Fan Club, Hidden Gems, Dreamboats, all that stuff. And who knows, maybe like we start seeing like the, forget what Heartbreaker, not Heartbreaker. I always forget the name. Anyway, it's the 3 mana Heartthrob. Thanks. I keep blanking out, but that's like a decent card, and maybe this will put that over the edge. Because it's just gonna be so hard to get rid of that board if it gets buffed, and I think it's worth exploring, especially with the potential of the Alchemist offering like some kind of finisher to the deck.
Fair enough. So Warlock,
I think Alchemist is in standard right now, isn't it? Okay,
it is.
I thought it was in core.
And so is Vol'jin, right, as a tourist. So Warlock is a lot of fun. I don't think it's good, at least from my. It's hard to say from the theory crafting again, but I tried to make demons work. I tried to make Starship work. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I felt like I was almost going to win, and then it just didn't have enough to get there. I will say Abduction Ray is the best golden we've gotten in this set, because it's got a little cow that gets sucked up into the ether from the tractor beam there. So I really really like that art. A lot of the cards feel really good. Infernal Stratagem, giving me in 3/3. If it's a demon, your next one costs 2 less. Felt really good. Bad Omen felt pretty good. Black Hole felt really good when I played it. But it just didn't feel like there was enough. It was strong enough to win. So I mean, again, theory crafting, 10 cards, blah blah blah. Don't have to keep saying the same thing. But Fellfire Thrusters is a really really good starship piece. Deal the minions attack to 2 random enemy minions. That was really good in Rogue. But yeah, anybody have any thoughts on the Warlock set?
I didn't catch it on stream, but I think there's still probably possibility for Wheel and Kill Jaden, right? Like that puts a hard clock on anything. And there's tons of, I mean, Warlock does have like a ton of defensive tools, especially with the new starship pieces. And you just try and survive forever, turtle up.
And the Heart of the Legion again was a really good rogue card. Pilot, thoughts?
Yeah, I think the starship package here is pretty strong. If not just the starship, but just for Bad Omen, the 6 mana summon 2 6/6 demons with taunt. That's a pretty strong, payoff in the mid game for just a couple things to help get you through that. So I think that there's probably something there, but it also has the set where I think it benefits with the non-theory crafting restriction, just because it's all kind of like 2 cards here and 2 cards here, rather than like Paladin, the whole set is Librams pretty much, so it's pretty easy to build a theory crafting deck from that.
Fair enough. All right, so our final class here that we haven't already talked about yet is Warrior. I did not see One Dwarf Planet. I played Spore Empress, but I don't think I ever drew a Spore. The Warriors I faced were playing mostly like a Draenei type warrior, and it felt really strong. I think there's a lot of potential here. Hopefully there's enough potential here that people stop playing Reno Control Warrior, but you never know. The shakes of the head say no, people are still going to be playing that, which makes me sad and hurts my heart. Stalwart Avenger felt really strong, but this set feels really really good. I don't think I saw Extract Akima, which is the 5 mana 3/6. After this attacks, all friendly minions can attack except for this one. I think that's really going to be a key piece of an aggro type deck. But overall, the warrior I saw seemed pretty strong, but it seemed pretty strong around Draenei. WorldEight, thoughts?
I didn't catch anyone playing the Warrior Draenei, but I saw people losing to it very quickly, like getting completely demolished by turn 5. Stuff like, like they already had a pretty strong board, and like Vindicator into like Avenger, giving them +7 like attack was like that ended a lot of like, I only maybe caught like 4 of those games, but they all looked pretty consistent and very like they had a strong start and like a pretty reasonable way to finish the game on like by turn 6. So I like those kind of decks, whole bunch of strong minions right off the bat, and then a reasonable way to finish the game. I don't know if the deck's going to have a lot of like going long to it, like, turn 8+, but maybe it doesn't need it. And that could just having an aggressive warrior deck. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much is Enzo going to enjoy playing Draenei Warrior?
He's doing Reno Menagerie mech things right now. He's pretty far. I think he's at arm's length from this one.
Ah, fair enough. I thought this might be up his alley.
It probably will be eventually.
Okay. Yeah, it will be. I think so. Pilot, thoughts?
Yeah, I think the aggressive, warrior definitely has a lot of potential. Unfortunately, I don't think that it'll reduce the pool of the Reno warriors, just because those are 2 very different type of warrior players. Those different decks and warrior players do not cross very often. They are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum there. So you're not going to pull very many of them away. You're just going to see them play spores in the deck instead. I'm going to try to make Dwarf Planet work, just because it's a really cool card. It's probably not going to work, but that's going to be one of my week 1 weird decks that I build probably.
Fair enough. All right. So 3 questions for the two of you. Question one: do you think Starships is strong enough that it's going to it's going to see play? Are we going to play Starships a month from now, or do you think that maybe they're not that strong? Pilot thoughts?
I think we'll see starships, but I think that they're going to be, more like, Titans and Colossal, to where they're a support piece, not a build around piece like we originally thought about when they announced the keyword.
WorldEight?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see starship pieces mostly from Demon Hunter, Warlock. They have the 2 strongest classes, but but kind of like in those classes, they'll just kind of be support pieces. Maybe in Warlock, dipping a little bit harder. I think we'll see a lot of Burgle Starship for a while. I don't know. It's just kind of like a fun way to take on the Burgle, and so you'll see like, that plus Velrock and the usual shenanigans. But it's kind of more interesting than like Kajamite creation, right? Or so it's fresh. And as long as it's powerful enough, right? Like it's not completely dumpster, I think it'll be popular.
All right. So we have focused mostly on maybe new decks that may have emerged from the new set. WorldEight, start with you this time. Are there any decks you think got stronger that already exist with this set?
Well, I think we see support for the 2 elemental decks right off the bat, right? Like the Mage and the Shaman are gonna get a pretty big power boost here, to be honest. And they were at least, for the climb to legend, very reasonable choices. They might overtake anything below legend, as like the decks to like you have to fight through them to get to legend, or you play them to get to legend. And that's always worth noting. Like, even though I typically get to legend and then I'll play a lot of the month in legend, like that's a very small percentage of the player base. So I think the overall, big picture meta is going to see a ton of elementals. And for existing archetypes, there are definitely cards that are just going to like fit in. In particular, I'm thinking like Airlock Breach. Like if a demon, like a Death Knight controller Death Knight deck just picks that up, they'll be happy. So we'll have individual pieces like that. And Egg Hunter gets a really, really good 2-drop, even if they're okay showing Gorm. Like, I don't know what that's gonna look like, but like that 2-drop is terrific. So in terms of new like existing archetypes, there are going to be a few reinforced. I think the challenge for anything new is you still have to be like this tall. You must be this tall to ride this ride, which is like you have to beat the Reno decks before they hit Reno. Like that's especially like Reno Druid. Like that is, you still have to get there before they do, and you still can't. You still also have to dodge like Pirate DH, right? Like any kind of face aggro deck. So I think that's my biggest challenge with Starship pieces, is that it's kind of like this middle of the road approach that has not seen a lot of success recently. And I still kind of blame Reno for that. But we do have some pieces that are going to slot in immediately into some decks, and the rogue population is going to get kind of out of control for a little bit, I think, because you have like three really strong, interesting decks coming out of it. Yeah, I think it should be a pretty a very different month after the release of the set.
Pilot, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of just standalone good cards in this set, to where you take a look at, cards 24, 25 and on in any deck list, and you can probably find something that you might like a little bit more, either because it's more powerful or because it fits what the meta is doing. Especially on more aggressive decks, there's some solid cheap cards that you can slot in over something else potentially, and make the deck even better, just like most sets at this time of the year.
All right, final question. What are you playing? Pilot, I'll start with you, Pilot. What are you playing in your first game on election day?
It might depend on what I open, but probably Draenei Warrior, just because it's been a little while since we've had that aggressive of a warrior, probably since Enrage. Probably the last time we had one like that, and I'm itching for something like that. That's why I've been trying to build this Menagerie Warrior and losing a lot with it.
Yeah, top 200, losing a lot. WorldEight, what are you playing day one? First game.
First game, I'm not sure. Probably. Well, I mean, I'm going to be playing the Brawl first, right? So probably going to have a pretty strong inclination from like whatever I open to my Brawl deck. So, you know, if I open a comma, I'll probably be playing a whole bunch of Warrior. But if if I open some, I'm more likely to play like the Asteroid Shaman. I feel like the bar there is pretty low. And I don't know, just kind of curious to see how many, rocks it could throw at people. Like, what does that look like? Well, but again, it's a lot of caveat of like, what does the Brawl feel like? It's not the same at all, right? But that'll give us a nice like sampling. And I think that's kind of the point of the Brawl, right? Like you can see the power, like you can maybe feel out the power level of some of these cards. But yeah, I think Asteroid Shaman or Draenei Warrior are probably my top two, followed by Libra and Paladin as a third. But still haven't figured out a list that I really like for that yet.
And I think the Brawl, what's going to happen with the Brawl is there's going to be like 2 or 3 decks that are fairly oppressive that end up being the decks out of the Brawl. But then once they get into the full meta where you have all the cards, man, they're going to fall down to like a tier 3 or 4. And people are gonna like run around like the sky is falling, but then it's I don't know. It's really interesting. I really like the concept of the Brawl, that it's not just standard, and it's gonna be fun. But anyway,
yeah. Well, I mean, you also can't like just net tech, right? Because like, what if you wanted to play Draenei Warrior but you don't have a comma? Again, that's like a crucial like card, like the card that you need to draw. Like you can't play it.
Fair enough. So this is normally where I say, Doc, that's been a lot of information to take in. I'm kind of full, but I have room for dessert. And he says, yeah, dessert sounds nice. So our question today
what
for
are you
host,
playing? I don't think you said what you're playing first.
Yeah.
I did not. I am probably playing, I'm probably going to play Asteroid Shaman. I'm definitely going to be playing some Elemental Mage, and I'm probably going to be playing some Combo Rogue, because all those felt really good. And obviously, yes, I will play some Libram Paladin. I also probably want to. I also think there's some potential there for a buff Paladin list, an enhanced buff Paladin list. Having a 9/9, maybe be a 15/15 seems okay. So we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to just playing a lot of new decks. But my question for you now, to our bonus question, is: what is your favorite adult beverage after a long day? Pylet, why don't you start?
I normally just drink a beer. So like I had tonight an Oktoberfest beer from a brewery out of Cincinnati. That's pretty good.
All right, how about yourself, WorldEight?
Well, I haven't had an adult beverage in 3 years. So I don't really have one right now. Do like ginger ale, I guess, late at night. I drink a ton of caffeine during the day with coffee and stuff, but yeah, for personal health reasons, I haven't had any adult beverages in 3 years. But how about you,
Some
Tito?
say water is an adult beverage because none of us drink enough of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I like
true.
a good coffee porter. Is usually my go-to. But I also like a what do you call it? Dark and Stormy, which is ginger beer and rum, dark rum. So that's always a nice way to end things out. But anyway, listeners, this has been a shorter show. Hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the longer show too. But if you like the show, you're still here, give us a review if you haven't yet. It helps other people find the show. We're coming up on episode 100. I'd like to have some more people come and join us and learn a little bit. We usually learn a lot on the show. So yeah, go ahead and do that. WorldEight, where can people find you on the social media?
The best place to find me is on Discord, WorldEight. If you message me and want to talk Hearthstone, I will probably engage with you there. I am still pretty active on Twitter, WorldEight _HS. haven't been so much lately because I haven't found any decks interesting, but especially with the expansion coming out, I will be very busy. I participate with the Coin Concede podcast creators and curating a list of different decks. I spend a lot of time on that, actually, more time than I should. And I'll be putting those out, doing some streaming on Twitch now every Sunday night, WorldEight_HS. And that's kind of like a late night stream for a little bit with Tex Mohammed. I'm not doing that until next week. He's out of town. But those are the three main places you can find me.
Sure, you guys will be doing the brawl next week.
Yeah, we'll be brawling.
All right. How about yourself, Pylet?
You can also find me mainly on Discord, Pylet712, Pylet. I also have Twitter with the same handle that I'm not on quite as much.
And do you have any shout outs or anything you'd like to promote this week?
I want to give a shout out to THL. Just finished up the season for this past expansion. So all those champions have been crowned and a lot of their banners are up and they're getting ready to start up the new one. It's an awesome organization that promotes a fun, casual competitive team environment that Tito talked me into joining a couple seasons ago on a pro team, and it's been a lot of fun to be a part of, and they do an awesome job over there.
Yeah, Pylet's I believe the number 5 seed to my number 2.
Yeah, this wasn't a good season for me.
How about yourself, WorldEight? Anything you'd like to shout out or promote?
Maybe it's personal, but I do want to shout out to my little son. I mean, it was a rough night for him, and he finally fell asleep, and I know it was really tough for him. It was tough for me, but it was really, I got to give him a shout out, even if he'll never listen to this or know about it. I have to acknowledge his little brave soul.
And I'm going to give a shout out to all of Team 5 that make theorycrafting and all these weeks heading into a new expansion exciting and fun, and putting in lots of hours and dealing with lots of questions and a lot of just people that probably are more of a pain than anything else. So thank you to them. Also shout out to Smarms and just a guy who just did a Battlegrounds tournament over the weekend. It looked like it went pretty well, so I'm glad they were able to do that. But anyway, guys, I think we're toast. We'll see ya.
All right, see ya.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.